I'm Ellis Genge and you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate podcast.
You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans. We're three friends. We love the club, the game, and all things Bears. Well, boys, that's the intro done. Because I couldn't think of anything else to say, and I thought we thought
we're warming up again.
We're warming up because we haven't done it for 3 weeks.
No. So we're a bit ring rusty.
We're very ring rusty. But it's the good news is we're back at the studio bar, our spiritual home. The bad news is it's a bit chilly in here, isn't it?
It's a bit.
I think we've had about 4 weeks off, and Lewis hasn't warmed our seats for us, has he?
I know.
He used to do that.
He used to. I wonder whether he's moved on.
I wonder if he's forgotten our importance, our stature in BS3.
Yeah, I think now he's got Jasmine. He's not giving us as much attention as we're used to.
And actually, for those listeners out there who are very who listen to the finer details of our pod, we would like to announce that it's now gone beyond just a few dates and punching above his weight. Lewis is now officially Jasmine's boyfriend.
Yeah.
And we know that because she told us that. And secondly, he's going down to visit her parents.
Yeah. In where, Pete?
Down in Truro.
Truro.
I mean, we had to have a little word with Lewis and said, mate, you're still young. Don't get yourself tied down too early.
That, and also Miles did make him quite clearly aware that obviously the way they eat their scones, and I'm calling them scones because I'm from the council estate, they do eat them in a wrong way.
Yeah.
And so I think Miles has given Lewis a pretty big heads up.
Absolutely.
In the way of how not to do things.
But we do just jest, don't we? We love Lewis. Lewis has looked after us. He's given us our customary little warm-up drinks, and we're all drinking the same thing tonight, aren't we, boys?
Blackgate's Nitro Stout, isn't it?
That's
beautiful. Beautiful.
It's a lovely, smooth pint. Perfect for a Sunday night.
Yes, yeah.
When you haven't podded for about 3 weeks. So anyway, boys, we're back here. Obviously we don't really have a game to talk about, although we will come back to that in a second. So really the aim of this pod, this restart pod, is very much to look at the Premiership restart. We've got a game next Saturday. We're back at Ashton Gate.
Yeah.
Seems a long time since we were there. Exeter Chiefs come visiting, which marks the start of the Premiership campaign getting back on track again after the Six Nations. But before we do talk about that, and we have got some help, we've done a kind of PPP, a Pete's Premiership preview, which we'll come to when we get to that section. But I think, Miles, we need to have a real quick chat about the women's semi-final, because the last pod we did, we actually previewed that game, and we were going up to watch that semi-final at Queensholm with our two daughters.
Yeah.
And we then did go and watch that semi-final, and unfortunately the ladies lost 20-36 to a very impressive Gloucester Hartpury outfit, who actually
are now winners.
Are now
championes.
Third-time champions. So they broke the record.
Yeah.
They look like they relatively comfortably beat Saracens this afternoon. I haven't seen the details.
It was about 34-19, there or thereabouts.
Convincing.
And actually probably put our game into a bit of perspective, because we pushed them all the way. And I do think, and it was something that Dave Ward said after the game, is that if we had managed to beat them in that semi, he was pretty confident that we would have beaten Saracens in the final.
I think you're right.
It was almost like it was the final of last year. But Miles, I just had a quick look over the stats from that game, and we had a great afternoon, didn't we? We went up on the train with our daughters. We went to the Weatherspoons in Gloucester, which was experience.
Questionable.
My daughter said, "Don't ever take me back there again." I don't know what your daughter
Well,
said.
I hasten to add, it's one of my favourite places, but there again.
Yeah, it was dire.
Yeah. For fans going up again in a couple of weeks' time, it's an old cinema that...
The Regent.
The Regent, isn't it? It serves cheap beer, and that's all I can say.
Cheap beer and an hour and a half wait for some chips.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I thought we'd just remind ourselves a little bit what happened. So it was a great afternoon. It was actually a really good game of rugby, and there were 6,000 fans at Queensholm, and it was and they packed everyone into the two kind of parallel stands. It was a really good atmosphere, really good game. And as we all know, kind of women's games are slightly different. There's a different sort of vibe, and very enjoyable. But anyway, looking at the stats, even though we lost, we had 61% possession, 62% territory. both teams had 10 entries into the 22. We only got 20 points. They got 33. We made 402 metres. They made 395. We had 195 carries compared to their 110. We had three clean breaks, but they had 7. We beat 21 defenders. They beat 24. We won 7 turnovers to their 6. We won 117 rucks compared to their 72. We won 6 mauls compared to their 3. And we kicked 372 metres compared to their 272. But they scored 5 tries and beat us. So, I mean, for those statos that's kept awake in that little list there, that kind of, to me, it's like, how did we lose that game? And Miles, I mean, how did we lose that game? You were there.
Well,
what were your thoughts then?
Well,
What's the reason for that?
Well, they're just clinical, absolutely clinical, Gloucester Hartpury. I mean, for the first 20 minutes, Bristol Bears women were absolutely dominant, weren't we? We scored 2 or 3 tries in the first 20 minutes, and Gloucester had no way to come back from that. However, you know, we've seen them play at Shaftesbury Park, and we know that they're a very strong team. Once they get the bit between their teeth and they slightly start to get ahead, I think once Gloucester Hartpury are ahead, no team can beat them. And they're, you know, as we know, that the coaching is an amazing standard. And is it Sean Lynn who's now gone on? He's moving on at the end of the season to go and coach Wales women. But I thought they were just brilliant. You know, the 4 tries we scored were just great. One by Alona Meyer. I mean, we chat a little bit about her. I mean, she's been an amazing influence for the women's game in Bristol Bears from the time she's been here. So that was great that she got a score. And actually, it was great. She was actually really tearful, wasn't she? On her post-match interview.
Especially when you forced us to have a selfie.
All right. She quite enjoyed that.
She did. She had a
selfie with her.
There's been a lot of selfies with Alona Meyer, it's got to be said, in the Bristol area in the last 3 months. But the one she had with us, I thought she really meant it. There was like real passion in her smile. To see 2 middle-aged men.
She was interested in our daughters, but not Pete and I.
I mean, Miles.
But that's been a great addition to the squad. I think, you know, it's just commendable that she, you know, said she's been integrated into that squad, a phenomenal group of women. And actually, we did the interview with Dave Ward and Tom, and I did say, you know, I think the women's team have been phenomenal this season. They've been really held their
bell back, don't we?
Yeah, held their heads high and proved that the women's game is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I loved every minute of that game. It was great. Apart from the loss, from start to finish, it was just great to watch.
I mean, the thing that's obvious for me, if we did have that cliche bell, we'd be ringing it now. It all comes down to all the stats that you guys have just produced there. It all comes down to fine margins. And I think that literally is the difference. They were clinical. And we knew Gloucester had that in their locker.
I think this was the problem. Dave Ward said afterwards that we didn't take the big match moments. And there were a couple of big moments. For example, end of the first half, we got a yellow card for, I don't know, it was a high tackle. It was quite hard to see. The ref went to his pocket very quickly for a high tackle that was just inside the 22. Obviously thought it was cynical. We suffered a little bit of that. So we went into the break 19-10 down, having dominated the first half. But then we scored really early from Alona Meyer, very early in the second half. Big break from Simi Pam, I seem to remember, in the corner. But the problem we did have, Holly Aitchins, didn't have a good day off the tee. So we really needed to be scoring tries under the sticks. And then we were then 19-15, and I've got a feeling, and Dave said this in his post match, is that we had a penalty, we had a kick to touch, and Holly went for it. And she went for the depth, and she missed it, and it went dead, and we missed that opportunity then. And with our pack right on their line, that could have been another try. And that may not have won us the game, but it would have put. And then after that, they then scored, and I mean, Millie David did score a worldie in the corner for a little girl. She did one of those ones where she sort of went through about 3 tacklers and managed to sort of put the ball down with one hand. So on another day, and I just think we played into their hands a little bit. Their defence was really solid, and we just kept trying to backwards and forwards. We just kept trying to get
Yeah.
through it, and we could have
you
mixed it up a bit.
You can only run it a brick wall so many times before you start.
And ironically, they
head.
say that if you're under the pump defensively, you get more tired. But I think in this was a case where we got more tired exactly for that reason. You're running into a brick wall, and Gloucester Hartpury are very, very attuned to defending hard.
That's why they're champions at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But one thing I would say is, though, you can flip those stats on his head and you could actually turn around and say there's a lot of positives.
100%.
There were.
And I think that we go into next season with those, taking those positives, and we know Dave Ward he's a positive type of guy, isn't he? And I think we will. There's a lot that we can take from that semi-final defeat and going into next year. Gloucester can't win it every year.
No. And
Well,
I think,
their coach has moved on. I mean, it might be that they've come of a time of 3 years where they've had phenomenal coaching and support. We go through these, waves and trajectories.
It's peaks and troughs. They could be in transition next year.
And we've seen teams like Sarries come up and Harlequins, who last year were nowhere, weren't they? It was an unusual season where we dominated with Gloucester last year. These other teams came up. And, a bit of luck. Well, not luck. We played Exeter twice and deserved a win, and that got us into the semis. I mean, I'm confident that next year, we'll take the learnings, and I think we'll be definitely top four, because I think we've got the players and the coaches to easily get us there.
And as Dave said in that, when he did the interview with us, he's the main recruiter, but he's got a good story. He's got a good sales pitch. The HPC integration with the men, playing at Ashton Gate. I mean, we'll come on to this, a double header at Principality Stadium next season. So I think we'll see some bolstering of our squad. And as they also said, which I thought was one of the most telling things in that interview we had with them, that there's no prize money in the PWR. So they're doing this for kind of wider reasons, to get people into rugby, and they've executed a game plan that's fun to watch. Now that might mean we didn't quite get there, but I think we've got to remember that as well, that there is a sort of wider purpose, and I think Bristol are leading the way.
Absolutely, we are
bringing people in to the game.
And we've already, on our pod when we interviewed the boys, wouldn't it? It was like they've got left field thinking, and I like that. When it comes
didn't
to,
you, Lee?
I did.
You
I
absolutely
really did,
that.
because when it comes to recruitment, I love anyone who thinks outside the box, but that could be really beneficial for us next season if we can get a couple of people in, a couple of ladies in that no one else is thinking about.
Tom Luke is the recruiter in chief, and there was a couple of people on the forum had obviously listened to that and said they were amazed. They didn't realise it was just Tom doing it off his own back. He thought that there'd been some sort of Bristol sport-wide sort of recruitment strategy. And he's done it once. He failed with the Gladiator. He got an Olympic medalist. Where's he go next, Tom?
And one thing you will say, he's going to have 3 or 4 different ideas and options.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Guaranteed.
Exactly. So watch this space on the Tom Luke recruitment show. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there.
Let's put it in perspective. Gloucester Hartpury beat Sarries around about 34-19 in the final today. So there we go. We just proved that we put up a flipping good fight against 3 times champions back to back, and that's fully respect the Bears. A lot of teams were getting smashed at the end of the season by them, and that was a really respectable score away at Gloucester, which, as we know, is a tough
and on a
ground
final
to go to.
aside, I mean, it all bodes well for the Women's World Cup.
It does,
yes.
In England at the end of the summer, most of it at Ashton Gate, and with some of those some of those Gloucester Hartpury girls in the squad, some of the Bristol squad, it's going to be hard to see England not winning that World Cup like they should have done 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast. You can get in contact with us via various social media platforms. I'm going to start with Instagram. It's been a bit quiet on the Instagram, boys, recently. I need content. I need something to work with. I got nothing. I need pictures of things happening so I can superimpose heads of our logo on and things like that. And, but it's the Instagram is our medium to the it's our medium to the stars. We've got a lot of, as we've pointed out, we've got a few we've got some celebrities that follow us. So I'm focusing. It's niche, but it's powerful. But we do have Twitter. And we love our Twitter. We love our fans on Twitter. There's a lot of banter on that, and we've built that up over the years. You can also contact us on Facebook. I don't really deal with Facebook as much as I should. I feel like maybe next season we have to think about how we use Facebook more. But you can also email us, as some people do from time to time. Not just people complaining about Miles's use of the word phenomenal about 10 times in the first paragraph. But you can email us, and I forget what the email address is.
Beyond the Gate.
Bears Beyond the Gate at gmail.com. Okay, right. So that's the women's game done. Let's look forward to getting back to the men's games. And of course, we do have Premiership restart. Although it's slightly irritating that it's only 2 games.
Yeah, it's
and
really
then
annoying.
For us, there's a 3-week break because, like we did last year, we managed to get knocked out of Europe twice in the same night. So I think we've got Chiefs, and then we've got Gloucester away, and then it's 3 weeks. So it's a kind of stuttering restart. It's kind of a start, on a winter morning when you've got your car and it turns over.
Yeah,
and you think
you've got it.
You think you've got it, and then you take your foot off the accelerator by mistake, and it dies again.
Yeah.
And then you've flooded the engine because you pull. If those of you those people that most of our listeners, most of our listeners, but most of our listeners will know what a choke is. I'm sure, given the demo. Well, so not that sort of choke. Anyway, so it's a restart on a winter's morning. Anyway, let's move on. Let's not dwell on metaphors.
Enough of Lee's sex life.
So let's just have a quick recap. It seems such a long time ago, but we are currently in second place in the Premiership. Did you know that?
I've forgotten.
Who'd have thought?
Which season are we in?
I know. We're in second place. We're on. Let me just get me. I need to turn my light on so I can see it. We're in second place. We've got 40 points. We're behind Bath, who have got 45. Only 1 bonus point win away.
Yeah.
We have got 2 teams coming up behind us, though. We've got Gloucester and Leicester, also on 35, so they're only 1 bonus point away from us. And then you've got Saracens on 34, Harlequins 32, Sale on 29. So it's ramping up, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we are in a really, really good position. We've also, by the looks of it, we've actually got the most number of bonus points. Did you know that?
Well,
we've got 10 bonus points, the only team to have 10.
Yeah, we've done well.
Bath have got 9, Gloucester got 8, and we've got 2 losing bonus points. And our points difference is plus 66, Bath is plus 165. And then Gloucester's only plus 30. So we're looking in a really good position.
Fine fettle.
We're in fine fettle, and of course the sort of fettle you need to be in to really make a push. So before we start talking about it, I had a little think over this long period when we didn't really have anything to talk about, and I remembered that there was when all of the pundits and all the sports journalists did their predictions at the beginning of the season, and they all do them, and all of the sports writers for each paper kind of give their top 4. There was only one person that even talked about Bristol, and this one guy was he was a sports reporter, was a sports writer at the Times, not one of the big rugby writers, but one of the sort of sport writers, a guy called Elgan Alderman. And that's
a hell of a name.
It's a hell of a name. He's Welsh, I found out. So
beautiful
it's a fantastic name. Yeah, fantastic name. He was the only person, I think, in the world, actually, that tipped Bristol to win. Including us, including every Bristol fan, and probably even including Pat, to be honest, to predict that Bristol were going to win the Premiership this season. And I remember us talking about it at the time, thinking, fair play to the lad, but what's he been on?
What's he on?
Anyway,
and then we realised he was Welsh.
Yeah. And anyway, I kind of kept this in my mind, and I thought he'd be a good bloke to talk to, in the off season when we come to the restart to find out why he thought that. And of course, he's been kind of justified up to a point because we are sitting in second place.
Absolutely.
So I thought, well, why don't we have a little chat with Elgan, see what was it, what was his thought processes at the time, and then also ask him, now we're here in second and we're coming to the restart. Does he think we've got it in us to make it to the end? So let's listen to what he said. It's pretty short. It's about 4 minutes long, and then perhaps we can have a little chat afterwards. Okay, so Elgan, thanks very much for coming on Bears Beyond the Gate. We really appreciate it. And the reason we've asked you on is because at the beginning of the season, when all of the sports journalists across most of the nationals and local papers were predicting positions in the Premiership, you were the only person I remember reading who said they thought Bristol Bears might win the league. So I'm really interested to find out, first of all, what made you come to that conclusion when everybody else seemed to think we were going to finish bottom half?
Thanks for having me, guys. I remember we were tasked, as we often are at the start of the season, when no one knows how anyone is going to do, and you're just trying to think what happened last year, what's happened over the summer, what do we think will happen over the next few months? And obviously, no one really knows. But when I was just sitting there thinking, I'm a bit of a romantic when it comes to rugby. I never want to criticize teams rather, for playing too much rugby or anything like that. And I just remember thinking how good and exciting Bristol were at the end of last season in that post Six Nations stretch when, what was it, that game against Newcastle where they kicked twice in the entire match or whatever it was, that 85-14 win. And I just remember thinking, well, they've rediscovered that DNA under Pat Lam. He said it came right from the top, didn't it? That the owner had got bored watching how they were playing, that they'd lost their way after being so badly burned in that semi-final against Harlequins all those years ago. And I just remember thinking, well, we've seen what they can do in a little 6-game stretch. So why can't they keep that going and maybe do that over an entire season? And I looked at their fixture list at the start of the season, and I thought Newcastle first up. Newcastle hadn't won in a very long time at that stage, so that looked like a guaranteed win. And then I thought they've got Gloucester, Bath, Exeter, all games with a bit of geographical needle. There's no reason why they can't, keep riding that wave into the season, really, and just keep going as they were. And, people probably weren't expecting losing 44-41 at home to Gloucester, which was one of the ones I might have thought they might have won, but then they won the other two anyway. So that's what it was, really. I just thought this is a high-scoring league. Bristol are a high-scoring team. They did so well at the end of last season. Why can't they do it for an entire campaign and see where it takes them?
Well, I mean, maybe you should have won a lottery. You should have bought a lottery ticket at the same time, because we are currently sitting in second place. So there was clearly a lot of method in your, well, some fans would say your madness at the time. So obviously, yeah, I mean, you have been kind of proven right to a certain extent. We are restarting again it'd be on the 20th against Chiefs. There is this second run in after the Six Nations. We are in second place. People are catching up a little bit. I mean, what do you think how do you see this Premiership restart going? Do you think Bristol have definitely got it in them to at least get into the playoffs and beyond? Or what other teams do you think are going to come to the fore?
I think so. I mean, you look at the top four, and there is that small little gap between, you've got Bath 6 points ahead, and then you've got Bristol 5 ahead of Gloucester. So it's only one bonus point win, but it is comparative to the rest of the table. That a bit of breathing space there. Again, looking at the fixtures, Exeter at home, that shouldn't really cause too much fear to Bristol. And then you look at the rest of them as well: Gloucester away, Leicester at home, right through to that Bath game in Cardiff, which will be quite an exciting event. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But you look at the fixture list, there's nothing really that's too much of an obstacle for why they can't carry on doing as well as they have. And like I said earlier, it's a high-scoring league. People love saying about how the Premiership doesn't prepare people for Test rugby because of how high-scoring it is. I mean, it shocked me when I was looking at the table before this, how the teams in 2nd to 5th have conceded more tries than the teams in 6th to 9th in the table. But it's just that the top 3 teams in the table are also the top 3 try scorers with 58, 56 and 44. So you can see how Bath and Bristol have scored so many more tries than everyone else, even Gloucester in 3rd. So I see no reason why a team that likes to chuck it about can't keep going well in a league that has now got a reputation for high scoring and chucking it about a lot.
So there you go, boys. proper journalism for you. He knew all his stats, didn't he?
He's a good lad.
He knew more about stuff than we did. If he'd said to me, "Come on, Pete, tell me what that Newcastle score was last season," I would have said, "Well, we hammered them, but I can't quite." There was quite a lot of points, 70 odd.
That is the difference. It is levels, isn't it? Because he could have said, if he was chatting to a Newcastle podcast, he would have reeled off all the stats for Newcastle and why they're bottom of the table as well, couldn't he?
Yeah, loved it.
Well, he did have a long flight back from India. He might have had a little bit of prep time and some.
Well, for those listeners who don't know what that means, because he's a general sports. I was trying to get in touch with him before I did, but he was, as Miles said, he was out watching the England one day shambles, and in India for 5 weeks.
Yeah,
that's a good old life.
Bad enough watching that on the TV.
But anyway, so what do you think, boys? I mean, is he a bit over optimistic? I mean, he's got no skin in the game. He's a rugby fan. He says he's a romantic. He loves proper rugby. And I mean, to be honest, he was a bit of an outlier, but he did a little bit of analysis at the beginning of the season. He looked at our fixtures. He thought we could get off to a good start, and he was right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess the question is, can we sustain that? We know how we're going to play rugby now. It's been pretty much stated now that we're not going to be playing a kicking game. We're not going to be worrying about the opposition. We're going to try and play our own game. We came undone once against Sale, who probably just had a perfect 80 minutes, and we didn't quite make it. But I just think that Sale game, maybe that was a good thing for us. I think
sometimes a little wake up call was, just the tonic you need to push on again. And I think actually, we've already discussed how I love people think outside the box. Well, like you say, he was an outlier. He was there. He said it, and he's been proven right so far. And to be honest, what we've seen this season, he is correct. I mean, I can only be positive going forward because we're going to have our injured players, or a great majority of our injured players, back, and that can only be good. Because I almost feel if we got those guys back and running again, it's almost like starting the season again, and we hit the ground running from the start. And I think there's no reason we can't do that again now. The blocks are really annoying. 2 games and then a break and then going again. But I feel really positive, and I do feel we're going to be in with a shout at the end of the season. I think we will be in the mix.
I mean, just before we talk about the Chiefs, I mean, looking at those, we've got Chiefs at home, we've got Gloucester away, then we've got a 3-week break, then we've got Tigers at home, Saints away, then a 2-week break, then we've got the big day out in Cardiff, and then we've got Sharks away, and then there's another 2-week break, and we finish with Quins at home. But as he said, in a sense, you look at all of those fixtures, they're going to be tough, but we've got our number on. We hammered Leicester before Christmas. They're not going to want us. They're not going to fancy it too much. Saints, have not got a good record against us at all. Sharks, okay, but they might be a bit too overconfident.
Well, is that?
No, I think again, like you've said, Pete, we've learnt the lesson from that. I don't think that will happen again.
So let's talk about Chiefs. Now, obviously, they've had a terrible season. Can you imagine being a Chiefs fan? It's not been a great season, although quite a lot of their games were pretty tight when you look at it, and they just, they've lost some bad ones, but they could have won a few more. So I think we have to be wary. I mean, we only beat them at their place. I mean, it was a pretty high scoring game. We beat them 40-35, so it was a pretty high scoring game.
They're in transition as well. We should say that they've lost a lot of players.
But I think we have to be confident about Saturday. I think our players will be confident. They'll know the vibe and the Premiership. They'll know that the confidence. And we know that Exeter lost today in the Premiership Cup final quite badly to Bath. They lost. We just thought we'd mention that really quickly, but we won't dwell on it. But they lost 14-48, and probably fancied it a bit as well. And it was at Sandy Park as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was at Sandy Park. Yeah, and also, I mean, actually, Bath did put a strong side out, but so did Chiefs. I mean, there was some big names in that Chiefs team.
I'm hoping that can go two ways. It can either mean there's going to be a response, backlash, or it means that their just confidence is going to be even more fragile. And, we could kind of make the most of that in the first 20 minutes.
I was going to say that. I think early, if we hit them early, get some couple of tries on board, and I think we'd be quite confident.
I mean, historically, we might dwell a little bit on the past couple of seasons. It's not been a great hunting ground, Ashton Gate versus Chiefs, has it?
Not a happy hunting ground.
Happy.
No.
I mean, we've had some appalling results, but I cannot see that happening again this season. Exeter of old are not as good as they were. You're absolutely right. They're in transition. I think the players are probably more confident. We've had a break. Some have had a lovely holiday, down in New Zealand. If you're Luatua, etc. And Pat will know this, and they've probably been training hard, and they'll be up for it. We've got some injuries coming back, and I think this time around, I think the portcullis has come down, the drawbridge is up, and we will not succumb next weekend to a loss.
Well, if you think that our last home game was Falcons, and we put 55 points on them at home, and I think, the word fortress, was whispered, I think, after that game. But we've got to believe it. I mean, sadly, last year, that was that horrendous Christmas game.
Dreadful.
Year before we got humped, didn't we? I seem to remember.
Well, I remember the game where we probably the most confident we ever felt, and against Chiefs. And then, I can't remember who it was. The old boy who was playing for Chiefs. It was like his last season, and he just run the show. Can you remember that?
It was, I know you mean.
And it was just, we couldn't get close to them.
I think the thing is, we have got the upper hand mentally. Our players are going to be confident. Our coaches will be telling the boys, look, they're a good side, but they haven't won anything, and they aren't. They are. You have won stuff.
Yeah.
You are a good team. You know what you're doing. We've got a clear game plan. We're going to run them ragged. Yeah. And their heads will go down quick.
There's fragility in that Chiefs team.
And I think it's almost like there's no relegation. Chiefs know they've got nothing really. I mean, ironically, they've got nothing really to play for. Yeah. So if they've got pride, obviously, and they're professional sportsmen. But if the real chips are down, I suspect that we can win them.
Agree.
Just a couple of things we mentioned. It's players coming back. I mean, we don't really know, do we? Because there's nothing being said. No. Which I think is another. It's interesting, actually.
Well, we can speculate.
We can speculate, but
we can speculate.
Good friend of the pod, Matt Crute, had put something on social media the other day with one of the super rugby teams. I think it was the Hurricanes or something like that.
Yeah.
Had put a kind of a tweet out where they listed every single player who was injured,
right.
And it wasn't over specific, but it was like hand 2 weeks.
Yeah, well,
and he said it was a really good idea because they're not giving away too much.
Yeah.
There's no medical data there. It's kind of like shin 3 weeks, and I thought, what, that was good, and that is a professional club doing this thing.
Do you remember that
keeping their fans?
We went through, albeit about a month spell of Bristol Bears doing that, didn't we?
Yeah.
We moaned a little bit on the pod, as did a lot of fans on the social media and the supporters about what's wrong with them, when are they coming back? And the club, they stepped up and they gave us answers. But because we have this massive break, maybe that's potentially why. And so maybe when we see the team sheet Friday, let's hope we get that. We get more information.
To be fair, at the fans forum, Pat was pretty open about. He went through the list of people who were injured then. And
we know, don't we? I mean, we can remind fans we've got some long-term injuries, haven't we? We know a season-wide injury. He's not going to be back. The Max Malins did as well. We know that poor old
Jimmy Williams.
Well, Jimmy should. He's probably not far off.
Because he had major surgery.
Noah Heward, sadly, that might be a rest of the season injury. But we watched Pete and I. Well, I watched the England Ireland A game. Harry Byrne had a HIA failure. That might only be a couple of weeks. So
he'll be back.
He'll be back.
Well, we've just re-signed him.
Absolutely.
For the end of the season. So
we're not quite sure about AJ, but we're pretty confident that he may hit the bench this weekend.
I think Ibitoy.
He's not quite there.
Batley. Is he was out further, wasn't he? Because he did a further injury. So let's assume not. Williams, we're not 100% sure. Thacker was on. I think he's got to be on. Ogray, yes.
Yeah.
because Ogre played in the A. And then the other two questions is Genge and Randall. They're going to have they need mandatory rest, but we've got a 3-week break. And I would have thought last season, because Genji came back and played immediately because he was on a roll and he kept
local Derby
he kept his form going. And I don't know if Genji dictates these things or whether England have now got more of a say, but I would have thought that I'd like to think Genji will turn out against Gloucester and Chiefs in Gloucester and then have his rest because he's on a roll. Harry will be desperate just to play some rugby that doesn't involve kicking. So I'm sure Harry will be straight in or in the squad for the next two games. Play. So I think that's.
I mean, the caveat is that Genji's wife is about to drop another child. So, but that's
that's true.
That's true. That might.
And then when you think about Chiefs, they haven't got any England players, have they? Well, Henry Slade, but I don't think that Henry Slade. They had Ross Vincent, who played for Italy, and they've got David Jenkins, who's played for Wales, and he's not going to be in a good blooming headspace, is he? So,
I think
he'll want to rest as well. He'll want to rest from rugby completely.
And I think poor old Fasay he's out with another.
I mean, danger man,
injury.
But the Paul, who's the winger? He scored against us a couple of times when we played them.
Josh Hodge?
No, Bampo.
Well, he'll be fit.
He'll be fit. He's dangerous.
He played on the wing today.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's a dangerous guy.
Bampo
Brown. You know, we've got to be wary. These are professional sportsmen. They're not idiots. And Capstick was in he was in the England A squad.
Yeah.
There's a few, but I think on balance we'll be disappointed if we don't win. In front of the Ashton Gate.
I think so.
Mates rates, tickets, you'd like to think it'd be a bit busier.
I think the 9 and 10 really, that axis is really important. And then we said that as well, didn't we?
Yeah,
when we went
absolutely.
down to Sandy Park.
Yeah.
I think that we've got, whether it be Randall and Byrne or Randall and AJ come straight in, I think that 9 and 10 partnership is stronger for us than it is for them.
It's funny that when you have a proper 9 and a proper 10 playing together, it's amazing what happens.
It is.
Anyway, let's move on. England did well, didn't they? Finally. Right. So that's it. I don't think there's much more to say about Chiefs. I think we'll go to the game next week and we'll talk about it on Sunday.
Yeah, so I think we're confident we're going to get a 5-point win. Why wouldn't you be?
Yes, I think we are. Right. Well, I think there was only one, maybe two other things, but one other thing that came out this week was season ticket renewal news, Miles. And quite a big splash, quite impressive, I thought, in the market. It was quite a nice little package that they came out, and there was no kind of fancy social mediaing with people, video stuff. It was just here's the facts. And just to run through it, I'm sure people know, but if they don't, this is the key detail. So they've created a super early bird window, which starts tomorrow. Super early bird. I mean, there's an early bird renewal window.
That's the blackbird renewal.
That's the blackbird renewal. But what if the blackbird is your normal?
It's the worm.
What is this? What is the
worm that pokes his head out of the ground first?
Yeah, but is that a bird though? It's a super early bird. I mean, what is a super early bird? If the
it's got to be an owl.
How early in the morning?
Doesn't sleep
because they never sleep. How early do you have to get up to be a super early bird?
So there's the owl renewal window. Starts tomorrow, Miles. Until April the 1st.
I'm not rotating my head 360 degrees, 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
But the reason why current season ticket holders should be interested in the super early bird renewal is because they're freezing the prices.
Yeah, which is brilliant.
Which is great.
Credit to the club.
And freezing everywhere apart from centre of Lansdowne, as far as I can tell. They are now they clearly, and I mean this in a nice way.
Yeah. You're going to say listened.
They've listened and learnt this season because there has been some issues.
Yeah.
With they're
these not displacing anyone this year, are they?
No.
No.
What happened? But last year happened after we bought our tickets. I can't see that happening again. There's no need. But we're jesting, aren't we? We're jesting.
What they provided, Lee, is something that you love. And do you know what you love?
Clarity.
Yeah.
Clarity.
So here we go. Here's the clarity. You're going to get 16 home games. Now, 9 of them are Premiership games. That's not our fault that there's only 9 home games.
No, you're right.
That's rugby generally. So what they've done this season is they've guaranteed that the exhibition game, which is going to be an Argentinian 15, they guaranteed it's not a double fixture weekend.
Yeah.
So they're gonna make a big thing about that.
A decent side out. That's what I'm saying.
And they mucked up with the Australia one by not making that a season ticket one. They've made this.
So this is a season ticket.
This is a season card one. The Pumas.
Yeah, I like that.
And I can see a lot of big, and like we've got our Argentinian contingent. It's going to be. I think they're going to go all guns for a big night.
It's a different feel to what we've had previously.
Yeah,
100%. You're going to get your 2 European pool games, which is fair enough. I mean, it's not. Again, we moaned about Leinster being 5:30 on a Sunday, but that's not our decision.
Probably dictated by the TV.
So let's just hope we're going to sit. But we know that if you go to those 2 home games, you're going to see a couple of big heavyweight teams in Europe, and then there are 4 Prem Cup games, and they've guaranteed because they've changed the structure that they're all going to be Premiership opposition. Now I know that doesn't necessarily mean Premiership first team, but they are Premiership teams. So that's 16 games, and then there's a few other things like your discounts and stuff like that. Now personally, as a current season ticket holder, I'm going to put my miss. Oh, and the other thing they've said is they're also going to be another big day out,
a double header,
but it's going to be on the 28th of March. They've told us the date.
Yeah.
And it is going to be a double header with the Bears women, and it isn't going to be Bath. So they're basically saying next season we will be back to our Bath at home big game at Ashton Gate. So it'll be, who knows, Gloucester or something like that.
Gloucester or
Chiefs.
It's got to be one of those two.
So personally, as a season ticket holder, I looked at that and I thought,
you're happy?
I like that. I like the clarity. I like the fact that you've taken on board some of the issues.
Yes.
You're not taking any more money off me if I do renew. And let's be honest, I'm probably going to and I think that there's, it gives me a nice little feeling for the rest of the season. So there may be fans out there that disagree, and I understand that, and I understand that the big day out thing will be a contentious thing, but I think the reality is they were always going to grow that once they made that decision.
Yeah.
And you can be a bit pedantic about, well, it can't be a home game in another country, and it is away from the thing. And I get all that, and I agree with it. But I think, I would say, Lee, you did say you like left field thinking, and in a way, it's part of that, but it's a very complicated issue.
I mean, this one for me, the like you say, the clarity is the big thing for me. They're not trying to, and I'm not trying to suggest they were ever pulling the wool over anyone's eyes, but you can understand why a lot of people were upset for this season.
And I think the Queensland Reds one was the issue, particularly because that other Australia one wasn't in the season ticket, and it was just, it was unfortunate, and I like that clarity, and I agree, and that's what we evolve.
Well, the only way you can move forward is by just being upfront and saying, well, this is what it is.
I mean, I love the fact that you're right. Everything is down in writing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Before fans have to part with any cash, we know what games you're going to get, what games you're not going to get, where we're going to play big day out next season, and that's included in the season ticket. Am I right?
Yep.
There you go. So you got a double header, women's game and a men's game in Cardiff, and we know where we stand. So I'm all up for that. There is absolute 100% clarity. We can pack a diary full of it, and I think it's exciting. And you're right. The Prem, that's out of our hands. That there are 10 teams, totally out of our hands. We accept that. We've gone along, and we love live rugby, and we love going to the games and interaction, and so be it. And it's been frozen for another year. So I hope that, along with other fans, over the next 4 weeks, I shall be taking advantage of the
super
early birds.
owl
Yeah,
window.
absolutely. Brilliant. Love it.
What do you think, Lee?
I'd back that completely up. And the thing that I would say is that from inside the club, there must be a confidence in the big day in Cardiff going well for them to do that and not to be Bath as well. I think that there is a growing confidence in there's going to be a decent crowd in Cardiff for this season.
I think that. Yeah, I mean, they've said over 30,000 tickets sold, whether it's sold, but it's allocated.
Yeah,
and that's not bad. And they've still got a couple of months to push it. And I think there will be a lot of
there'll be a lot of in-betweeners,
rugby fans who'll be willing to go and at cheaper prices than an international
Yeah.
to go and watch a decent game of rugby, and there may well be Cardiff fans. In fact, I did talk to Elgan about this off, which I haven't put on the recording, but he because he's from Wales, he reckons that we could pick up a few kind of not necessarily season ticket holders from South Wales, but from that area, Newport, Cardiff, fans that might look at a fixture we've got at Ashton Gate and think, you know what, I might pop over the bridge to watch a decent bit of rugby. And, I don't want to belittle Welsh rugby, but, there are issues with regional rugby in Wales.
And I do agree with that. I think that's a fair point. My only worry about that is these aren't fans that will come back.
No,
That's the only
no,
issue.
no.
And if we wanted to grow the game, which is what we're all wanting to do, that at some point we need to have
We've got to do something
more
in
left field
Bristol as well.
thinking.
Yeah, we do. I mean, on a positive note, the way the Harlequins did a double-header, didn't they? And they got the biggest number for a women's game and a men's game. That you wouldn't go there for one game. I mean, I certainly wouldn't next season. We would go there and watch both games, and it would just grow the game. So I think that's a great idea.
I'll tell you who else who's growing the game.
Yeah.
Jake Heenan opened another borough in Clifton.
He
Now,
did.
there's a left field
You
marketing
got for your free
strategy.
coffee?
No, because I saw there was about a mile queue. And Mars, I was working on that day as a teacher.
Saturday.
Oh, was it? I was probably doing some marking.
He works on
No,
Saturday.
but, I was thinking Jake Heenan. There's your kind of Trojan horse marketing.
Absolutely.
Get into Clifton, get a few promotions going with a flat white and a season ticket. So, left field thinking. Well, I think we've done that. Right, last thing, because I want to talk about Wales. We'll segue in. Lee, you mentioned this. Quick discussion about resurfacing of speculation about Pat
Oh, yes.
going
Yeah.
to Wales at
Yeah.
some point. What do you think?
Well, I just thought actually listeners might want our views on this because I just feel, when it came to light, my first instincts were like, nah, I can't see it really going. I don't know why Pat would kind of want to, and this is no disrespect to the Welsh Rugby Union at all at the moment. The international team aren't doing great, but, there's a million reasons why. But then I kind of thought, when I let it linger in my brain a little bit, I thought,
It's a lingerer.
yeah. And I actually thought, do you know what? Actually, this is something that Pat could really get his teeth into. We all know that when he's finished with Bears, he's going to get an international job.
Yeah.
Right? We all know that. And I thought, actually, is that something that he's going to look at and go, yeah, I could actually do something with
And
this
do you know
team?
what? I think that what I've understood from listening to a few podcasts and stuff about it and reading stuff is that what Wales are going to have to do is they're going to have two people there. They're going to have a proper DOR who is the kind of vision, strategy, pathway, all that sort of stuff, player identification, and then a head coach.
Yeah.
Not the same person.
Yeah.
Now, to me,
fair
that
enough.
sounds like Pat Lam, that the DOR...
Yeah.
That now, to me, if that's the way that Wales are thinking, but they got to appoint that person first before they appoint the coach, haven't they? And this is the big issue with it. Matt Sherratt, Sherratt after the game yesterday, I think he was asked, "Are you going to take the job?" He went, "No." That was it.
Yeah.
Fair play.
I mean, we should say as well, that Matt Sherratt, someone that we really admire. He was with Bristol for a long time.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. But I don't know. I just
think you're
feel like, and it's not. I don't know whether. I don't know. I think that decision might be made if we do something this season, i.e., win the Premiership. I think
Exactly.
the balance swings more towards Pat's going.
He's going to say his work is done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's what he's kind of been here for, is
absolutely.
winning something.
Yeah.
And if it goes well,
I think
it could be the timing.
I think it's got legs as well in regards to the salary cap.
Yeah.
We like Lanslang's already said we've got to tighten our belts up, and I just don't know whether it's kind of like all led in.
I was a bit
towards-
sceptical, wasn't I, on our little sort of chat, saying I think it's just recycled paper talk that's come round again and again and again. Wales taking a dip in form. and they need a new leader. And Pat has speculated,
but more than a dip, isn't it?
well, okay, all right. Looking at yesterday, as you
yeah.
said, I was like saying, are we going to get 50 points? It was an annihilation of Wales, as Lee pointed out, which absolutely was.
And it's not. And let's just joking aside, it's not good.
No, it's not good
for rugby.
None of us want
Wales
that.
is like that.
We've got Welsh listeners, haven't we, to the pod, and we want a competitive game.
But they're in massive transition.
Yeah.
You know, for so long they were so good, and you could argue they held. I don't know why I'm talking about international rugby, but they held on to their great players for a little bit too long, and they're having to start from afresh again, aren't they?
And we should say there's no better place to go and watch rugby, especially if you're English, is the Millennium Stadium. The Principality.
Well, we don't know. As we know, Pat Lam is in a fairly long contract for Bristol Bears. It would be expensive to buy him out for the WRU, wouldn't it? We've definitely got unfinished business.
Definitely unfinished
Absolutely unfinished business, haven't we? You know, he talked about winning the Champions Cup, winning the Premiership. We've done neither of those two yet. So my feeling is there is still too much unfinished business for Pat to transition across to international.
But for Wales, it is very much, it's like now or never.
Yeah.
They need it. And,
I totally
there's
agree.
the one thing that makes unfinished business leave unfinished, and
money talks.
Cha-ching. And we'll see. So, I don't know. I go with you, Miles. I was thinking I dismissed it a bit like you, Neve, and then Neve, I call you my daughter, like you, Lee. And then, but I had it lingered, and now I think it could happen, but we'll see. I hope not, but we'll see. All right, boys. I think we'll give it a call it a day there. It's time to go. Time to go to bed.
Yeah,
and
it pretty
get this
much
pod
is.
out. So I hope everyone is looking forward to Premiership coming back for at least 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
Before it goes away again. And look forward to seeing somebody down the gate next Saturday.
At 5:30 onwards.
We look forward, as we do, with anticipation for the team.
Bated breath.
Because we're not quite sure about who's fit and who isn't fit. So it's going to be quite exciting. Be out Thursday normally, isn't it, on the Saturday game? So we look forward to that. So they not go out Thursday for Saturday?
24 hours.
Friday for Saturday.
Friday lunchtime for Saturday, yeah. So midday Friday, team sheet.
So something to look forward to at the end of the week. And as we always say, have a good week, stay safe, and
Up the Bears!